Hello everyone, FPL RapTier here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to review Game Week 5, look ahead to Game Week 6, look at my team selection, watch list and transfer plans with 2 free transfers to use. So, without further ado, let's get into today's video. Before we jump into reviewing Game Week 5, I just wanted to give a quick update on the RapTier Charity Mini League standings. If you are new to this channel, essentially it's a free-to-enter charity mini league where I will be making the donations at the end of the year, and I'll be donating to the top 3 managers' charity of their choice, and I'll be turning their points totals to pennies and donating that amount. So if first place gets 3,000 points, I will donate £30 to the charity of their choice. If third place gets 2,500, I'll donate £25 to the charity of their choice. And I'll also be donating my own points totals to Mind Charity, who help a lot with raising awareness and support for those suffering with mental health issues. So they do a lot of really meaningful work. So please do check them out as well. But hopefully this is just a way to use FPL for greater good and basically turn our addiction and our obsession into fantasy football to raise awareness and support for charities. But I just wanted to say well done to these 12 managers. That's obviously all I could get on the screen, but you're doing so well. First place is actually 95th in the world. So there are some incredible scores here. I know Sky Girl, Hannah and Joe have been first and second for a while now. So they've been right up there the entire time. I'm currently ranked 403rd in my own mini league, which is a bit embarrassing. So if you could all stop doing so well, that'd be fantastic, because I'd like to try and get into the top 10 or top 50 at some point. But brilliant scores. If you haven't already entered, the code is TTBCQQ. So if you want to enter, I know a lot of people have offered to donate their own points total to the charity of their choice at the end of the season. So if you want to do that as well, that would be great. We're just trying to raise as much awareness as possible. But let's move on to the Game Week 5 review. We've been saying for a while for the first 4 game weeks that sooner or later everything is going to come crashing down, and we're going to realize that you can't score an average of like 80 points a game week, get all of those 100+ points. And I think for a lot of us, this Game Week 5 was a bit of a crash back down to reality. And I was absolutely saved by the Sunday of football, because on Saturday, it was looking really dire for me. If we have a look at my defense, in comparison to last week, most of my points were scored by my defense. Every single defender, including Sanchez as well, all got a return of some kind, mostly clean sheets, and then Luke Shaw obviously got the assist. This week, it was an absolute disaster. I mean, it looks like Williams and Cody haven't even played. I made the joke about who am I getting off my bench for Cody and Williams, because they've just got 0. Like, so bad. Sanchez conceding, really annoying, because Brighton did really dominate that game, and obviously getting that late yellow card as well for 1 point. Luke Ayling, Leeds have just been so bad. Like, I think there is a temptation this week potentially to use my free transfer on Ayling, despite the amazing fixtures. He's playing a lot of the time at centre back because they've got so many issues, and Leeds just can't defend for some reason. Like last season, they ended the season defending really well, and we hoped that would continue, but they seem to have gone back to their old ways of defending at the start of last season. Luke Shaw again, Manchester United, I think we've only conceded like 4 goals this season, or 5 goals, but they've been in 4 separate games. We always can just concede 1 goal, and it's very irritating, because we concede significantly less than a lot of other teams, but it always seems to be in separate matches, which from an FPL perspective is very annoying. He obviously looks great going forward as well, but I think very soon, probably not this week, but very soon, Luke Shaw will be making way for a Chelsea defender. The midfield is where the bulk of the points came this week. And if you watched my video, you'll know I was debating, do I take out Benrahma? If I do, it will probably be for Sarr. And then if you saw on Twitter as well, if you follow me on Twitter, the main decision for me this week was, do I do side Benrahma to Ismaila Sarr? Obviously, on Saturday, when Ismaila Sarr scored a brace and scored 15 points, I was absolutely gutted, because I thought I was so close to making that decision. Benrahma's going to probably not even play, and if he does, he's going to blank, and I'm going to be so annoyed. And he got the 15 points Sarr. But then obviously when Benrahma got the 10 points, I feel slightly better, because if you treat each transfer as 4 points, then I'm only 1 point worse off here. And I do really like Benrahma for this upcoming week. So I'm pretty happy with my decision to keep. It was a very lucky goal. Like, I won't take anything away from it. It's definitely a lucky goal. Perhaps it was off target. Perhaps it should have only been an assist. It was probably an own goal. But either way, it worked out in the end. So Benrahma with 10, Salah, obviously brilliant. And we spoke about captaincy, and I actually said that I think Lukaku was a great captaincy option. And the reason for that is I thought Chelsea would dispatch of Spurs quite easily, and they did. But Lukaku wasn't involved in any of the goals. Ronaldo only got the 1 loan return, not many bonus. So Salah was definitely the best captaincy option this week, and I'm glad I put the armband on him. That's the difference between a big red arrow and a small one. Jota has just been so frustrating to own. Like, I took Tsimikas out as part of a -4 because I said Jota is just so good for the upcoming fixtures with Firmino being injured. And he's looked great up until that final moment. And last game week, it was Mane's fault, in my opinion. Like, Jota just played brilliantly. This game week, he missed from about 2 yards out, open goal, terrible finish. And he just doesn't look quite at it. And I am quite worried that with Firmino now coming back, also Ox sitting on the bench waiting, Origi, Minamino, they've got the players that I could potentially see Jota being rested in game week 6. I'm not going to take him out, but it is very frustrating that he's blanked the last 2 games. Rafinha getting that goal. I think the goal was quite lucky, but he could always have more returns. I posted it on Twitter and I just said, however many points Rafinha gets, you're always left wanting more because he just plays so well. So I'm very happy to have Rafinha. We'll discuss his injury in the next section. And then Ronaldo and Ings both getting just a lone return, a goal for Ronaldo and assist for Ings. I'm glad that, again, one of my other potential decisions was, do I take Ings out for Bamford or do I take Ings out for Jimenez? Obviously, Bamford just got the lone assist as well and Jimenez blank, so I'm pretty happy that I decided to keep Ings, although he may be making way this game week. Obviously, Antonio was always going to miss out. Brownhill I was always going to keep on the bench. Trent was really frustrating because he probably would have got something clean sheet from the game, potentially attacking returns as well. And that's the reason that Ayling's in my starting 11, because I wasn't planning on playing Ayling. But yeah, so Ayling's come in for Trent. Trent's obviously ill, but we've had it confirmed that it's not COVID. And I think it's been like pretty much confirmed that he should be available for Brentford this weekend. So keep an eye on that in the press conferences, but it does look like Trent should be available for this weekend. So that is how game week 5 went for me. So I scored 61 points. My old rank was 72k and my new rank is 86k. I'll try and remember to flash on screen my game week history so far, but essentially throughout the entire season so far, I haven't dropped out the top 100k, and I've just been really, really consistent. I haven't done anything outstanding. I've not really broken into that top 50k or anything yet, but it's been very, very consistent, and I'm really happy considering I still haven't played my wild card yet, haven't played any chips, and I've got 2 free transfers heading into game week 6. So without further ado, let's look at the team selection for game week 6. So starting with the defence, again, it looks really good for this upcoming week, but I mean, it looked good for last week as well. And I said I was really happy with the depth that I had. And obviously I had Cody, Ayling and Williams all blank, including Trent and Shaw as well. So the entire defence was a disaster, but I can't see myself really making many transfers this week in the defence. Obviously, we'll wait on the news for Trent, but I don't think I'll take him out. What I would say is if you're playing your wild card in game week 7 or game week 8, Liverpool obviously have Brentford and then City. So I think if you're playing your wildcard in 7 or 8 and Trent is confirmed out, then it might be worth moving him on to free up some funds or to go for a 1-week punt in defence. So definitely worth considering. But for me, I'm not definitely playing my wildcard in 7 or 8. I might hold it a little bit longer. So I'll probably keep Trent even if he is ruled out. Sure, I think this is Shaw's final week in my team. Even if he does really well, I think this will probably be his final week in my team. Cody, Wolves have got relatively good underlying data, but they just haven't delivered on it. And Cody's attacking potential is so low. So I started the season, if you're wondering, if you're new to this channel, I started with Cody from the very start. He was in my game week 1 squad. So that's the reason I've got him over like a Marçal or a Semedo. But the fact that Wolves can't seem to keep a clean sheet, on top of the fact that he doesn't have much attacking potential, I don't think he's a great option, but I'm happy to have him until I wildcard. And Sanchez, again, I think there are better options. I'm really looking at Ramsdale. I think Ramsdale could want to be one of the best cheaper options, but I'm happy with the defence for this week. I can't see myself making any changes. If I do, and I decide to make a defensive transfer, it will probably be because like Luke Ayling's ruled out long term and I decide to take him out. Brandon Williams, again, Norwich have been pretty terrible, but I'm not going to waste a transfer on a £4 million defender, especially considering he's starting and Norwich's fixtures coming up are pretty decent anyway. So pretty happy with the defence. The fixtures are pretty nice. I've got some defensive cover as well. Even if Ayling's injured, I've got Brandon Williams. So I'm relatively happy with it. But yeah, let's just see how they perform in game week 6. So here is probably the main reason I'm so happy that I kept Benrahma is because they face Leeds this week, West Ham. And I just think this is a fixture where West Ham could do so well. Newcastle tore them apart at point in game week 5. And I think West Ham are obviously significantly better in attack. And I think with Antonio back now, with Vlasic settling in with Fornals, they've got so much talent up there. And I think Benrahma could get a couple of returns here. And I think this will be a goal fest in general. West Ham versus Leeds, which I mean, I'm happy to have potentially 3 attackers in this game, potentially 4 if I make some transfers as well. So really happy to have Benrahma this week. Rafinha is the other player that should be involved in this fixture. Obviously, at the moment, he's yellow flagged. The news before game week 5 was that he had a potential thigh strain that broke out on Friday. But he was subbed early, and then Bielsa said that it was actually his hip that he was having issues with. Now, what I would say is Bielsa is normally very, very clear in his press conferences. He doesn't tend to lie. He doesn't tend to avoid the questions. He'll probably say if Rafinha's injured or not. And the other great thing is that he should have 2 press conferences before the deadline, hopefully one for the Cup and one for the Premier League. So we should really get pretty strong news either way. whether Rafinha's injured or not. If he is injured for more than probably 1 or 2 weeks, if it looks like it might be long term, I'd probably ship him out. If it's 1 week, I might try and cover it with another transfer, or maybe, like I said, if I take Luke Ayling out and bring in the defender, I might be able to play like a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3, sorry. So I'll have to assess that. At the moment, I think he'll be fit because he looked fine during the game. He walked off absolutely fine as well. He didn't look like he was in any pain. Yes, he was icing it after he was subbed off, but I think it's precautionary. So my personal opinion at the moment is that Rafinha will probably be fine, but don't hold me to that, and definitely keep up to date with the press conferences. Diogo Jota and Salah, obviously, you'd say this is a brilliant fixture against Brentford away, but Brentford have been so good in defence this season. So I'm not particularly convinced that this is as good a fixture as I thought it would be for the Liverpool trio that I've got. That being said, I'm obviously not going to sell Jota before Brentford, but as I sort of alluded to in the Game Week review of Game Week 5, I am slightly worried that he's benched in this one. I just think he didn't look that great in Game Week 5. We know that his fitness isn't up there with Salah and Mane, and that's why he often comes off early. And I just think there are players that Klopp does trust, like Oxlade-Chamberlain, to fill in that false 9 position. So again, I'm not going to sell him, but I wouldn't be. I'm ready for a benching. Let's just put it like that. And I know Firmino is apparently going to be ready for Game Week 6. I'd be surprised if Firmino starts, but he'll probably be ready to come off the bench if Jota does start. So yeah, this will probably be Jota's last week in my team. So hopefully he finally gets that return that he's been promising for so long. And Salah, obviously never going to sell Salah, especially not before Brentford away. That being said, I don't think he's the best captaincy option at the moment. My current thinking is that he's the 3rd best option in my team. I could just default back to him. I just think he's so reliable. He's on penalties, and Liverpool are attacking so well. So I could just default back to him. He might be my captain or vice, but Brentford's defensive data so far has been really strong, and that's putting me off slightly, giving him the armband. Obviously, Brownhill's still on the bench. If I was on wildcard now, I'd be choosing Sissoko or Allen. But that's the midfield 4. I'm really happy with it. I won't make any transfers unless Rafinha is out injured for a long time. Similar to Ben Rama, this is, again, the reason I'm so happy I kept Antonio. I just think, again, this could be a goal fest. I'm really glad. I think he'll be raring to go. He would have had the game off. I know he's played, obviously, in the Europa League, and he might also play in the Cup as well. But I think he's going to have a lot of fitness. He's going to feel very fresh, and I think he'll have a point to prove on his return. So really happy to have Antonio against Leeds. As you can see, vice captain is currently on him. I do think he's a serious captaincy option. The only thing that would potentially put me off is the fact that it's at Ellen Road, and I do think the home advantage is definitely coming back this season. So I will be trying to target home fixtures wherever possible. But I think if someone's a clear captaincy option and they're away from home, I'm not going to let that put me off. It's when it's a 50-50 decision, which at the moment it is for me, between Antonio and Ronaldo. And I just think Ronaldo's looked so good. He's shooting so much. We're trying to feed him every opportunity. He has had quite a lot of luck in the goals. Some of the goals he scored so far, I think all 3 goals that he scored in the Prem have been relatively lucky with like rebounds and poor keeping. But he just gets in those positions and he finds a way to score. And it's irrelevant of FPL. Throughout his career, he's found a way to score. And you can't repeatedly be lucky. It's the amount of runs he makes, the amount of shots he takes. If you get that many opportunities, you will score a lot of goals. And I do still think he'll be on penalties. And whilst there have been significantly less penalties this year than in past seasons, I still do like to favour that in my decision making. So I think Ronaldo against Villa's probably the fixture I'd be targeting for captaincy at the moment. Obviously, I'm not going to sell Ronaldo, but we'll discuss captaincy actually in my game week preview episode. I'm not going to discuss. I normally discuss captaincy in my team selection, but I'll discuss that in that episode because I think it will just give me more scope and I'll be able to talk about it for longer rather than squeezing it into this video. The one place that I think is probably the clear, if you looked at this team and if I asked you in the comments, who do you think I should transfer out of this team? Where should I use my free transfer? I think you'd say Danny Ings, right? And I have 2 free transfers as well. I have the opportunity to make 2 free transfers, but the plan this week is to make 1 free transfer, roll another. So next week, I'll still have 2 free transfers and then to bring in 2 Chelsea players for their Game Week 7 fixture swing. So I'll probably only use 1 free transfer this week. And if Rafinha and Trent Alexander-Arnold are absolutely fine and they're fit to play, I think the clear position to make the transfer is Danny Ings. Now, what I would say, apart from Man United and Spurs in the next couple, Villa's fixtures are actually pretty good long term. I don't even think Manchester United's a difficult fixture particularly. We've said before they are prone to conceding. Villa look much stronger now that Watkins in the side and now that they're playing a 3-5-2. I'm not really against keeping Danny Ings, but at the same time, I want to be aggressive with my transfers. And I do feel like just keeping Danny Ings just because the fixtures are all right is quite a passive move. And I think that's potentially the reason that I'm sort of stagnating around 86, 85k at the moment, because I don't think I'm being aggressive enough. So that doesn't mean necessarily taking hits, but I think taking Ings out before a relatively tricky fixture run and targeting someone else, or potentially just downgrading and spreading the funds around, I think is probably the smart play. So with that in mind, that's the team ahead of game week 6. As I said, 2 free transfers, 0.3 million in the bank. Let's take a look at my watch list and who I might be considering transferring in this week. So guys, as I always do in these videos, I've made a little watch list just so that you know who I'm keeping my eye on. Again, if I own the player, they're obviously not going to be in the watch list. So I'm not saying this should be your watch list. Again, you might be targeting different players at different prices. But for my team in particular, over the next week or two, these are the players that I'm focusing on. As you can see, the 2 Chelsea players, Rudiger and James, are not definitely, but likely to be my 2 transfers in game week 7. As I said, I'm trying to roll one of the free transfers across so that I've got 2 in game week 7. And I'd like to do, for example, Luke Shaw and Ayling for Rudiger and James. And in that way, I can get double Chelsea defense. I won't own Lukaku. I'll probably do that in like game week 9. We'll discuss that next week. But James, Cancelo and Rudiger, the 3 of those are really on my watch list for the coming weeks because I think Chelsea and City's fixtures do definitely start to swing, especially Chelsea's. And both teams just defend really well anyway. It doesn't even really matter about the fixtures anyway, but when they have a nice fixture run, it's even more important to get on them. So those are the 3 defenders that are on my watch list, and I'll probably be bringing in 2 of them next week. You can see I've also got 2 midfielders on there. Gallagher and Sarr are the 2 midfielders that, in my opinion, we should be targeting. What I would say is if I don't bring in Ismaila Sarr this week against Newcastle for Rafinha, if Rafinha's injured, then I probably wouldn't bring him in at all because Watford's fixtures start to turn. I think Gallagher is the long-term option. I think he's looked really good. It's starting to be quite consistent now. He looks nailed in that number 8 spot. I think Vieira's getting the most out of him in that box-to-box role. And as you can see from his underlying statistics, they're so strong. He's got really, really strong underlying statistics and they've been very consistent. He's a really direct goal threat. He gets assists as well. So I really like Gallagher. On set pieces is another thing. He takes all the corners and free kicks for Crystal Palace. So I really like him coming up. More of a long-term option than Ismaila Sarr. But if I was to transfer out Rafinha this week, it would be for Sarr or Gallagher. But as I said, likely the transfer I'll make this week is to take Danny Ings out. The 3 options that I've put on here are Armstrong, Bamford and Jimenez. I would also add St. Maximin to that list. I do think he's a great option. But for me, it's one of these 3 players. The most obvious direct switch, again, if I asked you in the comments, who do you think I should take Ings out for? I think most people would say just do a straight swap for Bamford. His underlying statistics have been stable. You can see expected goal involvement per 90 of 0.37. So not outstanding, but we know he scored almost 200 points last season. He's on penalties. Leeds can attack well, and when they click, they really click. And the fixtures, West Ham, Watford, Southampton, Wolves, Norwich. It's an obvious move to make just to do Ings to Bamford. Obviously, they're around the same price, so it's not really an issue there. I've got money in the bank if Ings does go down, which looks like he's going to. So I can make that move fairly comfortably. It would mean having 4 players in the West Ham Leeds game, but I'm not really too bothered about that. It would also mean a double up on West Ham and a double up on Leeds. Again, I don't really care about that. I don't mind double ups at all. The reason that I'm tempted to go elsewhere is just to have some money in the bank for those moves. For example, if I do Ings to Bamford, I can't do Shaw to Rudiger and Ayling to James because I wouldn't have the money in the bank to do that. So I'd only be able to get 1 Chelsea defender unless I take a -4 and downgrade elsewhere. Jimenez is the same sort of issue, but it does give me a little bit more flexibility in my transfers next week. I'd have like 0.8 million in the bank as opposed to 0.3. So I like that as well. The one that I'm really strongly considering, and I'll be honest, at the moment, this is what I'm leaning towards, is Danny Ings to Armstrong, Adam Armstrong. Because what that would give me is 2.3 million in the bank, and I'd be able to do the moves that I said in the fence, and I'd still have 1 million in the bank for the following week. I just like that flexibility of having money in the bank, and I just don't think there's a clear option as a replacement for Ings. I mean, I spoke about on Twitter potentially just keeping Ings because their fixtures are good, but I've got a free transfer to use, and as I said, I want to be a little bit aggressive with it. I think Wolves at home is a decent fixture for Armstrong, and the reason I think it's aggressive is not because I think Armstrong's a much better option than Ings, probably less, but it gives me the money in the bank to attack that double Chelsea defence in game week 7. So if I'm being honest, the 2 things I'm leaning to over are probably either downgrading Ings to Armstrong to give me money in the bank for double Chelsea defence, or just making a straight switch between going Ings to Bamford, and I'll deal with my transfers next week when I have 2 free transfers, and I'll probably get 1 Chelsea defender and maybe use the other transfer to take out Diogo Jota, maybe for like a Mason Mount. But They're the players on my watch list. Again, it's early in the week. I'm recording this earlier than usual, so I'm still thinking about all these things. But if you follow me on Twitter, I tend to post my thoughts throughout the week, and I'll post my team before the deadline as well, so that you can see the moves that I've made. So guys, in this final section, I'm just going to have a little bit of a tinker and just show you how the team will look in future weeks if I go down different transfer paths and why I might be leaning one way or another. The website that I'm using here is called FPL.team. I'm not affiliate of this website. I don't get any money for it. It's a free to use site. You don't even have to sign up. You just have to type in your team ID and you can start tinkering. So it's FPL.team. The reason I like it is just because I think compared to other sites, I like it because it looks like the FPL site. So it makes me feel like I am planning ahead. And it basically allows you to look at your team in future weeks. So you can just go through the different weeks and look at how your team looks. So obviously we're into game week 6 now. This is how my team currently looks set up with 2 free transfers. As I said, something that I'm really strongly considering is doing Danny Ings out, and then you just type the name over here on the side and bringing in Adam Armstrong. Now, as you can see, if I scroll down, that says 2.2 million in the bank, which is pretty decent. Like, I'm not expecting to need to use all of that next week. But if we go through to next week, obviously Armstrong plays against Chelsea, which isn't ideal. But I have Williams against Burnley and Ayling against Watford, which is really nice. So there's potential that I could just bench him there, or I could just play him and hope. But what I would likely do then is, as you can see, I think I would take out Shaw against Everton and I'd bring in probably Reece James. I know he hasn't played many games so far, but I think long-term he's probably more nailed than Marcus Alonso. So I'd bring in Reece James and I'd potentially bring in, probably I'd take out Luke Ayling, I think, and I would bring in Rudiger. And I would probably bench Cody, probably. Or potentially, as I said before, I could just bench Armstrong. So what I could do is bench Armstrong, bring in Cody, and I'd be playing like a 4-4-2. The other option is, as well as doing that, so that's my 2 free transfers, I could just take a hit and take out Jota and bring in some other midfielder. So I know Torres plays against Liverpool, but City's fixtures coming up are really, really strong. So I wouldn't mind bringing him in ahead of that. Again, I could just keep Jota for that game and make the Torres move next week. You can see I've still got 1.6 million in the banks. There's plenty that I can do with that money. If we then skip ahead to game week 8, obviously, I wouldn't wildcard in 7 because I'd have the 2 free transfers probably. If we look at my team for game week 8 after making those transfers, let's say that I even keep Jota. Let's go back to that and just say, do you know what? I'm going to keep Jota for that week. I'm only going to use the 2 free transfers. If we have a look at game week 8, this is how my team would be set up for game week 8. Sanchez against Norwich, amazing. Double Chelsea defence I'd have. Trent against Watford. Cody against Villa, but again, I could play Williams against Brighton. I'd bring back in Armstrong, of course, against Leeds. That's a great fixture. So a pack 3 of James, Trent, and Rudiger. Salah against Watford. Rafinha against Southampton. Benrahma against Everton. Jota against Watford. And then Ronaldo against Leicester. I probably wouldn't have him as captain. I'd probably make Salah my captain. But you can see, I don't think you need to bring in Lukaku for game week 7 or game week 8. I think it's game week 9 that I'd bring him in. But look at that team. Like, do I need to wildcard in game week 8? Not really. Is any wildcard going to be much better than that? Probably not. The only thing a wildcarder would be able to do that I can't is to bring in Lukaku and Ronaldo alongside each other. But then they're probably sacrificing elsewhere. The squad looks so good. I've still got 1.1 million in the bank. So if we say that I'm not wildcarding in game week 8 and we move over to game week 9, you can see once again the team looks really strong. Sanchez against City's not great, but if Foster keeps his place, I've got Foster against Everton. Otherwise, you obviously can't have the perfect fixture every week for your keeper. This is the week where I would say, do you know what? I think, again, I'd probably have rolled my transfer in game week 8. I don't think there's a necessity to make one. This is the week where I'd potentially wildcard, and if not, I'd take probably a -4 or make a double transfer. So I'd probably take out Ronaldo at this point for Lukaku, so I could get on the triple Chelsea for that Norwich game. I'd captain Lukaku as well. And then, obviously, I can take out Jota. This is the time when you can take out Jota for Torres. Okay, and you can see the team starts to really build together. Then you might decide, you know what, I'm done with Benrahma. I don't want Benrahma. Maybe you bring in Gallagher. This is the point you say right now for their nice fixture swing. I bring in Gallagher. He's got Newcastle at home. So you can see over the next few weeks, there's only one hit in there, which is this week. I can build a team which can compete quite easily. And once again, I've got like Cody on the bench against Leeds. Like, I do have the squad depth as well. So I'm looking at my team. And yes, I could be aggressive and wildcard in game week 8. Or I could be aggressive and wildcard in game week 7. But I don't really need to. And I think aggressive moves are good in FPL. But equally, if I can keep my wildcard in my back pocket till game week 12, game week 15, when there are further fixture swings, I do wonder if that's the best use of it for my current team. But I mean, let me know down below if you think I'm just being too passive and that I should just pop the wildcard soon. But for me, I'm probably looking at game week 9 now as the earliest. But obviously, if I get lots of injuries and lots of rotations, maybe there's absolute chaos in the international break, which there often is, then maybe I'll pop the wildcard a little bit earlier. But for me, I'm looking at holding it as long term as possible. So do let me know down below. Let me know down below what your chip strategy is. Maybe you've already played it or you're planning on playing it in the next 2 weeks. But for me, I'm thinking of holding it a little bit longer. So for those of you that are still watching this video, I assume you're more hardcore fans of the channel and you just really enjoy watching the entirety. I know lots of people would have clicked off by now, but for those of you that are still watching, if you do really enjoy the channel and you want to show your support for the channel and get more involved chatting to me directly and chatting to some other people that also enjoy the channel, I have opened up memberships for the channel. So if you're on desktop, there should be a join button next to the subscribe button. You can click that and there are 2 tiers that you can join, which we've called RapTiers, or Raptor, like RapTiers, little play on words. So you can join either of those. Otherwise, there'll be a link. If you're on mobile, sometimes it doesn't have the join button. So if you're on mobile, there's a link in the description and you can click join that way. Otherwise, just DM me on Twitter and I can send you the link to join. I just wanted to say thank you so much to the 7 people that have signed up already. I'm going to butcher your name, Nipachan, something like that. Let me know in the comments if I've butchered that name. Thank you for joining. Jordan as well, been a long time supporter of the channel. You've both signed up to RapTier 2, which is great. And then RapTier 1 Premium. So with RapTier 1, what you can do is I'll follow you on Twitter and we'll direct message each other whenever you want. So if you need help with captaincy, transfers, your team for the upcoming game weeks, if you just want to chat in general, we'll chat all the time on Twitter. And what I've also done is I've created a group chat for all of us. So I did that yesterday. So the 6 of us with the 5 RapTier 1 members and myself are in a group chat and we just chat about FPL, chat about everyday life, and there's a really nice community feel in there and they're all such cool guys. So Andre, Johnny, Sean, Stephen and Carl, thank you so much, as well as the other 2 guys in RapTier 2. So if you do want to join, I'd love it. Absolutely no obligation to do so. The content on this channel will not change, but there are some really cool perks. You can see the cool perks when you click on the join button. But I just wanted to say thank you so much to the 7 of you for already joining. You're all absolute legends. So guys, there you have it. Those are my potential transfer plans, my watch list, how my team looks for the upcoming game weeks, and also my thoughts a little bit on chip strategy, etc. As I said, captaincy, I'm currently on Ronaldo, but I'll discuss that in the game week preview video, which will be coming out later this week, potentially Wednesday, but more likely it'll be Thursday, where I'll be answering some of your questions. So look out for the community post where I'll be asking for your questions, and also on Twitter. So if you have any dilemmas, you can post on there, and if it's a popular enough one, I will cover that. Thank you so much for watching the video. Again, if you're still watching, let me know down below that you're someone that watches until the end of the video, because I do appreciate you guys very, very much. If you are still watching and you're not subscribed to the channel, absolutely subscribe. We get regular content on here, trying to have insightful discussions as much as possible, and I'm continuing to try and improve the channel wherever I can. Until next time, guys, thank you very much. Bye-bye.